Good day, my name is Onyechi Wandiko, Head of Project National, S-DELI Save the Deaf and Endangered Languages Initiative. Today is International Day of Sign Languages, a day set aside by the World Federation of the Deaf and the United Nations to raise awareness about sign languages of the deaf people of our societies. We are here today because we are part of that community. We are not just part of the community, but we are fellow advocates for the linguistic rights of the deaf people. Since we began our operations in Imo State, Nigeria 2014, we have continued to celebrate this day even before it was set aside in 2018 for this purpose. This is because, coming from a society that seems to care less about the linguistic rights and other human rights of people with disabilities, we understand the role we can play in changing the narrative. Have you ever thought about how a deaf person feels when he's unable to pass a message across? Because his supposed audience do not understand his language, neither can they communicate in sign language. Yeah, that look of disappointment on his face, the sad expression. Then he struggles to want to make you understand. He does everything just to be able to put up a communication with you. Then he finally resorts to writing, just to be able to communicate with you. At this point, he wishes you could understand his language, just maybe about a bit of it. That language that makes him unique. That language that makes him linguistically equal with everyone else. That language that gives him the power of expression. If at all you had just a little knowledge of it, just a bit, then there will be a feeling of mutual relationship. That's the magic of the language. In S-DELI, we believe the sign languages are for everyone. We believe in the linguistic rights of deaf people, especially the deaf children. Now let's hear from some experts what they have to say about this.
The issue of Nigeria having multiple languages has continued to raise questions in people's minds. This happens whenever we talk about a national sign language. Some think it's not necessary. Others think it is. Some think it's not possible for Nigeria to have a national sign language, while others think it's doable. This is why the focus of this year's IDSL is very, very important to us. I believe that the more we have discussions about our national sign languages, the more we see the importance of having a national sign language that portrays our cultural identity. The World Federation of the Deaf, I believe, understands this. That is why they made this issue the focus of this year's International Day of Sign Languages. I am Shola Aderi Bigben, Deaf Liaison Officer for S-DELI, and member of NAD, Nigerian National Association of the Deaf. I stand for the recognition of our national sign languages. I stand for sign languages are for everyone.
Hello, my name is Mary Edward, and I'm a final year student, PhD student of the University of Brighton, UK, and also a linguistic researcher focusing on Ghanaian and Adambobe sign languages, and a member of the S-DELI. I'm a co-instructor of the online certificate course on African Sign Language Linguistics and Interpreting, and I want to say it has been a great eye-opening experience for all the students, both deaf and hearing, as we go through to see the rich varieties of indigenous sign languages we have in Africa. Yet not many African countries can boast of their own national sign languages which portray their cultural heritages. I want to thank the World Federation of the Deaf for raising the discussion about national sign languages to let us know that we all have a huge role to play towards the development of our indigenous sign languages to a national standard. I want to encourage us all not to relent because posterity awaits to celebrate our efforts. I want to encourage all national deaf associations in Africa to work hard to develop their own national sign languages. Thank you.
Today, we join the World Federation of the Deaf and the United Nations to celebrate the International Day of Sign Languages 2020, make use of this unique opportunity to support and promote the linguistic identity and cultural diversity of deaf people, beginning from our immediate communities. The International Day of Sign Languages happened every 23rd of September since its inception in 2018. And this year's theme is Sign Languages are for everyone. You know, thinking about the theme, I kinda can't stop thinking about who everyone is. But in this simplest form, I understand that everyone includes both the deaf and the hearing. Everyone includes both you and me. Sign languages are for you and they are for me. The historical marginalization of deaf people around the world prior to the evolving knowledge about sign languages against the ignorance of the deaf. Deaf people were not allowed to use their languages. They were seen as incapable of learning and incapable of cognitive productivity, and their languages were greatly endangered, stifled. Thanks to scholarly efforts of several deaf and hearing people whose works have helped us to understand the sign languages are as natural languages as spoken languages. That deaf people's national languages should have equal status with spoken languages of the hearing people. However, the knowledge is yet to become a popular knowledge among both the hearing and the deaf people. This is where S-DELI comes in. This is the reason we are having this program today. So that to continue to create the needed awareness until everyone who is unaware becomes aware. Until everyone is not just aware, but is fully involved in the promotion of sign language. Let's see how these men and women of Team S-DELI have chosen to be involved.
Due to societal prejudices and incorrect assumptions, deaf people's rights are often overlooked and denied. Promoting and advancing the linguistic rights of deaf people is key.
Every deaf person, irrespective of their status, deserve equal rights and equal opportunities with their hearing peers. Sign language right is fundamental to equality.
Sign language is for everyone.
Without early sign language exposure, deaf children are deprived of a strong language foundation and means of communication. In S-DELI, we stand for the sign language rights for deaf children.
For sign language to be for everyone, sign language should be included into every professional or educational sector for a better provision of public services to the deaf community and the deaf people.
And I stand for the linguistic rights of deaf people. I stand for sign language rights for all. Thank you.
It's high time we had a national sign language.
It's high time the deaf accessed health information in sign language.
It's high time we standardize sign language interpreting services.
This is what S-DELI stands for.
In line with sign language rights for all, every deaf person deserves a right to privacy, especially in the aspect of medical attention, where a deaf person would not want a middleman in form of an interpreter to meddle in his or her medical issues.
Sign language is for everyone.
And sign language rights is fundamental to equality.
Access to sign language, including in education and other public services, is critical for the human right of deaf people. Hence, sign languages should be accorded the same status as spoken languages.
Well, I'm glad that we arrived safely, and I'm also glad that our hosts, the team members in Kaduna, they've come to welcome us. The journey was smooth.
I stand for sign language rights for all.
Deaf children need early access to their indigenous sign languages,
as this enables their full communication and cognitive skills.
Promoting and advancing the linguistic rights of the deaf people is key.
Sign language is for you. Sign language is for me.
Man, there's going to be work here. There's going to be a lot of work here, so I bet you got a lot of work to do.
Okay, we should have visited him.
The Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities recognizes and promotes the use of sign languages. It makes clear that sign languages are equal in status with spoken languages and obligates state parties to facilitate the learning of sign language and promote the linguistic identity of the deaf community. This is why the World Federation of the Deaf intelligently chose the theme of this year's IDSL to focus on the promotion, recognition and ratification of national sign languages. The national sign languages are natural sign languages of deaf people. They are also the native languages of children from deaf-parented families and are also used by millions of people around the world who are part of the vibrant national sign languages community. The the World Federation of the Deaf. In S-DELI, we believe in the preservation and promotion of national sign languages through the documentation of indigenous sign languages. We believe in early access to sign languages for all deaf children. We believe in deaf literacy through the indigenous sign languages. In fact, I cannot tell it all, but I believe I have someone who is more qualified to tell it all. A person whose studies and visionary leadership have impacted many lives, both the deaf and the hearing. A person who is sold out to the development of indigenous African sign languages and early access to indigenous sign languages. Join me as I make welcome my boss, the CEO head of Project Global, Dr. Imasonye, as he takes us on the ride through his IDSL message.
Hello, I bring you greetings from my family and from Team S-DELI. Today is the International Day of Sign Languages, a day set aside by the United Nations and the World Federation of the Deaf, WFD, to promote sign languages across the world. The theme of this year's IDSL is Sign Languages Are for Everyone, a theme that started running from the year 2019, a theme that offers an opportunity to support and protect the linguistic identity and cultural diversity of all sign language users. And this is according to the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres. Since the beginning of our interventions in the African deaf communities, we have raised advocacy for a lot of issues, unpleasant issues, troubling the African deaf community. We have raised advocacy for equal education opportunity for the African deaf children, a society without deaf stigmatization. We have raised advocacy for deaf talent development. But above all, we have continued to champion the advocacy for the linguistic rights of the deaf people. Early language access, which incorporates early intervention program for the deaf children. We have continued to promote deaf literacy through indigenous sign languages. Although we advocate, we do not stop there. We go into the communities to document the indigenous sign languages, not just to let the world know that African deaf communities have rich linguistic signing systems, but also to document and develop those signing systems for the promotion of deaf literacy. Early literacy is a panacea for intellectual development in children, and early literacy yields the best result when provided in indigenous sign languages or spoken languages. Whether signed or spoken, the linguistic rights of all children begins with an early exposure to their indigenous languages. Now, let's watch how these deaf signers expressed the value of their indigenous sign languages. Although we talk about sign language rights today, it is important to state here that the linguistic right of every individual is a fundamental human right, such that should not be denied anybody, whether deaf or hearing. That right is fundamental to human identity and integrity. That right is pivotal to human communication and association. And like linguists rightly affirm, every child is wired for language, whether signed or spoken. So, when the World Federation of the Deaf, WFD, and the United Nations seek to emphasize this through the theme of this year's IDSL, sign languages are for everyone, they want to show that it is a collective responsibility of us all to protect and promote the linguistic rights of the deaf people, and more so, the linguistic rights of all. This is what we do in S-DELI, Save the Deaf and Endangered Languages Initiative.
Actually being the person running around
behind the camera
for Team S-DELI, all the way from Abuja to Kaduna to Lagos to US, and it's been awesome. It's been awesome, you know, documenting all of this, doing the recording and all of that. Yeah, this team has been really great.
Hi friends, my name is Ima Asunye and I'm excited to appear on camera once again to bring you progress report about the ongoing documentation of indigenous Nigerian Sign Language as it is going on in Kaduna North right now. My team, I can tell you, is the best ever, and the deaf community here also, they are awesome. Since yesterday, we've been collecting varieties of sign language data. Today, we're collecting numerals. It is awesome. It's very awesome to see the variety of sign language that exists here.
The International Day of Sign Languages was observed in 2018, a year after we launched our Promote Deaf Literacy Through Indigenous Sign Languages. That year, the theme of our campaign was Coders and Parents Must Sign, a campaign we launched in several cities in Nigeria. Having observed the International Week of the Deaf, IWDEF, since 2014, focusing on different issues in line with the theme of the year, in 2018, we joined the World Deaf Community to celebrate the International Day of Sign Languages, IDSL, the International Week of the Deaf, IWDEF, plus the International Literacy Day, ILD, which became our popular Triple Action Project, TAP. The goal of our Triple Action Project has been nothing other than to raise awareness about the importance of sign language in full realization of the human rights of people who are deaf, to bring home and sustain the discourse about linguistic rights of deaf children in Africa as it applies to other continents. Let's reflect on how some of the images of our TAP 2018 were taken. To us, the theme with sign language, everyone is included, means that each one of us has a role to play in creating an early language access for the deaf children born in our family and in our community. It is that collective responsibility that S-DELI has chosen to champion. We believe that it is not enough to talk about inclusion without doing something about it. We took this advocacy and our message to 5 cities in Nigeria and in several schools for the deaf. Over 3,000 students, deaf and hearing, were impacted by our outreach. Having set that standard, we were determined to build upon it in 2019 with the theme, Sign Language Rights for All. We believe it was the right time to take the message to the doorpost of the hearing community, the message of a collective responsibility in creating early language access for the deaf children in our indigenous communities. Targeting linguistic departments of Nigerian universities and ministries of education and ministries of women affairs, both of which work with the deaf persons. Our emphasis was to sensitize those that work with and around deaf people about the linguistic rights of the deaf people. We achieved this by holding a public lecture in 3 Nigerian universities, 3 secondary schools for the deaf, and 2 government ministries. As we are here today to join the World Federation of the Deaf and the United Nations to declare that sign languages are everyone, we also want to join the World Federation of the Deaf to emphasize that our national sign languages are regarded as equal to spoken languages because they are cultural heritages of the deaf people in our communities. No national sign language is better or more important than the other. In other words, American Sign Language, for instance, is not better than Nigerian Sign Language, if only Nigeria had a national sign language. We are also here today to remind African deaf signers, sign language interpreters, deaf educators, linguistics researchers, and other sign language activists, and that indigenous African sign languages are the bedrocks of our national sign languages. The reason some African countries can hardly boast of their own national sign languages is because of lack of a conscious effort towards developing their indigenous sign languages that portray and strengthen our unique deaf cultures to a national standard. Many indigenous African sign languages are cited to have been used as early as the 16th centuries and beyond. Yet, these sign languages have remained underdeveloped. We seize this opportunity to call on African deaf scholars, sign language interpreters, linguists, parents of deaf children, and everyone to join hands in this effort towards developing indigenous African sign languages to a national standard and to create early language access, early literacy for the African deaf children. And I want to say, Happy International Day of Sign Languages. Thank you.
Sign languages are forever. Indigenous sign languages, when developed, become national sign languages.
Deaf or hearing, language rights are fundamental human rights and should not be denied anymore. We appreciate S-DELI and for bringing this awareness to our doorsteps.
Sign languages are forever. Indigenous sign languages, when developed, become national sign languages. We all need to work hard to develop our national sign languages.
When you give a child early access to language and early literacy learning in the indigenous language, you have raised a platform upon which that child must thrive intellectually and otherwise. This is a truism. My name is Obi Ajulu Emejulu, linking up from Aba, Abia State, Nigeria. Thank you.
I grew up to acquire my indigenous sign language before I went to school. I went to school where we were taught in a different signing system that is English-based. That does not mean that our indigenous signing systems are not good. Our indigenous signing systems are as good as the English-based sign languages.
To the end of this important program. I appreciate every one of you for joining us to celebrate this year's IDSL. Our appreciation goes to all our partners, Nigerian National Association of the Deaf, the African Union, the World Federation of the Deaf, and all sign language activists around the world. We hope to see you next time, next year. My name is Onyuchi Wandiko. Do have a great day, and God bless you.